Hey, well, what's up, guys? Welcome back to The Collision. Daniel here, and the superhero genre craze has now reached the point where the movie studios are scraping the bottle of that comic book barrel and coming up with stories about superheroes. Pets! DC League of Super Pets just hit theaters. I've seen it, so let's talk about it. So the Justice League, these superheroes, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they've all been around for a while. But if you're like me, a lot of audience people have been wondering over the years of, was Superman a dog person or a cat person? Or were they good to their pets? Well, this movie is here to answer that question. DC League of Super Pets. In a lot of ways, this movie is exactly the kind of movie that you would expect it to be. It's kind of a mashup of, you take kind of like Pixar's The Incredibles, and you take Illumination's Secret Life of Pets and kind of smash them together. You kind of end up with a little bit more mature, kind of DC comic-infused version of Paw Patrol. That's definitely, I think, what this movie is going for. And again, it makes all the sense in the world to release a kind of movie like this and kind of tap into some of that comic book love, but maybe for a younger audience. So you can definitely see that they have all the makings in this for a big smash hit. Unfortunately, despite what I think, a lot of good things going on in this movie, it just never really fully takes flight. Can never kind of transcend just sort of being a meandering, kind of middle-of-the-row animated film. So let's kind of get into this. If you're not aware of what sort of this movie is about Superman's dog, who his owner, Superman, he's been captured by Lex Luthor's diabolical kind of gerbil guinea pig that from his lab, and kind of his Superman's dog Crypto, along with kind of the help of a bunch of other kind of newly empowered pets that have all the abilities, need to save their human kind of equivalents. So basically, this is a pet animal version of the Justice League. The voice acting in this, kind of the ensemble, is its own kind of super team. Even like the more side characters are voiced by like A-list, big name actors, kind of a who's who of actors, kind of highlighted by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Kevin Hart, kind of reuniting for the who knows how many times. They're always in movies together, kind of as the new the main dogs in this. But again, kids don't care about that stuff. They don't care who's voicing the characters. They just want a good story. And like I said, although you can see a lot of the elements are there to make a good story, kind of unlike the Super Pets, they never seem to kind of come together in any kind of cohesive unit. So the story itself is kind of played surprisingly straight. Again, relatively speaking, this is still a movie about like squirrels that shoot lightning and flying dogs and diabolical guinea pigs. So it's definitely not like a serious or a gritty kind of movie, but kind of unlike something like maybe the Lego Batman movie, which is really just like almost a comedy, kind of spoofing a lot of the superhero genre stuff. The Super Pets leans a lot more into this like a traditional, almost like a Saturday morning superhero cartoon kind of vibe, like an old school vibe of this really is just like a superhero show, but kind of aimed towards children and through the perspective of animals. And again, they do poke some fun at like the Batman character, and they do have some fun with sort of the elements of sort of the superhero genre. And really, this movie isn't quite as funny as you would expect for a movie with such like a goofy premise and bright colors and kind of aimed at kids. The jokes end up being more of like a kind of softly chuckle to yourself, a kind of one-liner that you found amusing, rather than something that just sort of makes you laugh out loud and kind of really get into the moment. I take my two 7-year-old boys to this movie, and they enjoyed a lot of the movie, but I think they laughed kind of out loud at something that happened right at the beginning of the film. And that's the last time I heard them laugh through the rest of the movie. There wasn't laughter kind of in the rest of the theater. And I think some of it is that the humor, for the most part, kind of aims high. The positive of that is kind of blissfully, you don't have any of this sort of the poop and fart jokes to kind of entertain the kids. It is a little bit more like sophisticated, but I think maybe too sophisticated, where a lot of the humor and stuff is stuff that just would go fly right over the heads of kids. You have a world-weary kind of turtle who, after two characters kind of get engaged, kind of mutters, prenup, or, these, or like there's a joke pointed towards kind of Jeff Bezos and how billionaires all need to own rockets and just stuff like that like, as an adult, I kind of see what they're going for there. But my kids obviously didn't catch that. And I think even, again, we'll get into this a little bit later with the content to consider, but even kind of a gag about kind of bleeping out like what's clearly kind of this like real strong profanity by these characters and stuff. Sort of this ongoing gag that, again, as a parent of young kids, I wasn't super into, but it seems like they're kind of going to kind of be a little more edgy and stuff for the older audience. So I do think that this isn't really as fun, or at least as funny as a film as maybe you were expecting going in. The animation to this too, again, this is it's fine. There are moments where it kind of goes into like a more stylized like comic book aesthetic, and I thought those moments were cool. For the most part, it's sort of kind of standard. Kind of what you expect from animation. Nothing super interesting. As far as this content to consider in this movie, it's one of those things where kind of at the time, it didn't seem like it was this overboard or offensive or anything as a parent. But kind of looking back and kind of writing, thinking through this review, realized maybe there is more to this, more things for parents to kind of be, to consider. So let's kind of get into that. Profanity, there's no actual like swearing or verbalized or at least swears that you hear in this movie, but there's this kind of an unnecessary amount of kind of alternatives, ways to kind of get profanity sort of in there without actually being in there. And one is this kind of to use these like placeholder swears, or at least that's what I call them, like heck. You have characters, what the heck? They're saying things like that. And even one villain character who's about to trying to murder the good pets kind of says, I'll see you in heck. It's just unnecessary for a kids movie. And like I said earlier, there is sort of this recurrent gag where this one character just kind of keeps dropping these like profane words, and they bleep it out like they would on like TV or something. So the character all of a sudden looks around, doesn't know where they are, and where the bleep am I? You clearly know that they're dropping an F-bomb. The kids just can't hear it. And again, they play it for humor, but it's unnecessary. And then just kind of a collection of what I call rude words, things like stupid and losers and crap, and even one of the characters refers to a woman as a wench, and just words that I don't know, as parents might be need to consider, be aware of. Violence, there's really no violence. Again, this is a kids animal movie. There is some kind of implied, like one cat, kind of evil cat, talks, expresses that she wants to tear the good guy's limb from limb. But again, you don't see any of that in the movie. Sexuality, there's a little bit of sexuality too. And there's at least one kind of overt same-sex couple. Some dogs are in the park are talking about, that their owner was recently got a fiance, and the camera shows two female characters kind of hanging out together. Clearly a couple. And there may have been a second. There's a scene later in the movie that features two male characters, and they're sort of portrayed like they're probably romantically involved, although the film doesn't actually state or make clear kind of what their relationship is. But again, that might be in there. I don't know if a kid would pick that up, but just something to be aware of. And there is the Superman character kind of explains that when Lois Lane, his girlfriend, shows up, the dog sleeps on the out of the room because obviously they're sharing a bed. So there is stuff kind of sprinkled throughout. And maybe another one that kind of another area for parents just to consider as far as content goes is there is one character that kind of idolizes the Wonder Woman character, kind of to the point of like worship. And again, the Wonder Woman in the lore is like a demigod, so it kind of makes sense. But she just kind of makes comments throughout, like thank the goddess, or praise be her name, or some of those things. And again, I wasn't necessarily bothered by that. It kind of makes sense. The characters are sort of fangirling out, but definitely some stuff in this movie I think parents should be aware of. As far as like themes and stuff to consider, kind of beneath the surface. Kind of despite being like a fairly silly, kind of goofy concept, this movie actually has a surprising amount of like emotional depth. It has heart to it. And kind of one of the overarching themes in this is just sort of, what is the true meaning of like unconditional love? At one point, the Johnson and Kevin Hart their dog characters are talking. And the one says, what they always say about dogs, we love unconditionally. And kind of through that character, through both those characters, kind of unpacks a little bit of what is unconditional love. You kind of get the backstory of Ace, which is the dog played by Kevin Hart, that when he was first adopted as a puppy, he tried to save sort of the kid in his family from harm. And the parents kind of misinterpreted the situation and thought he was attacking and biting the girl, and he was sent away. And kind of as the dog reflects on that, saying, hey, I wouldn't change a thing, even though the consequences kind of led me to a lot harder life. It wasn't fair, and I did think, especially for a kids movie, it was a more kind of emotional, nuanced moment of, hey, good isn't always repaid with good, but part of kind of this unconditional love is loving kind of despite sort of the payment or what you get back, and really that's the kind of character arc of Crypto, the Superman's dog, throughout this whole movie. Kind of the overarching kind of journey that he's on is just sort of learning to love Superman for Superman's sake and not just kind of for what he gets out of the friendship, what he gets back. And I was thinking of even obviously, that's a biblical concept. 1 John 3:16, where it says, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. And really, that's the theme that this movie is going for. Obviously, it's not doing it in a Christian sense, but just sort of unconditional love and the power of that. And maybe the other theme, especially if you have kids and want to kind of talk through this, kind of as was expected in almost every superhero team-up movie that's ever been made in history of cinema, the lesson is we're better together. We got to learn to work together. That's the plot of all these movies. Because it's not a bad plot, and that's kind of the theme that runs throughout this movie as well, as just sort of Crypto learning that, hey, he's better, he's more powerful as a team, and you kind of see that throughout, that kind of the defining kind of strength of the people Justice League and the animal version is that they have friends, that they don't have to do it alone, and kind of the villains, sort of their downfall in both the human and the kind of animal version is that they don't have friends. They're trying to do it all on their own. So you definitely get some of that. Kind of some of that wholesome theme that I think parents can kind of talk to through with their kids. So in the end, I didn't hate this movie. I don't know how much I liked this movie. My kids thought it was fine. Again, I have 2 7-year-old boys. They thought it was fine. They kind of talked about it on the way to the car, and they kind of moved on and forgot about it. It's not one that I think really kind of captivated them, or I don't think they're going to be asking for the toys, to go buy the toys or anything. And I think kind of overall, this movie sort of falls very much into the camp of good but not great. Kind of everything about this movie, the plot, it is entertaining. There is some stuff, but nothing kind of stands out as really engaging or captivating. There's no action scenes or moments that you would necessarily want to go back and revisit. Like I said, there is some humor, but none of the humor kind of makes you laugh out loud and kind of relive the jokes later. The characters, they're all fine. I liked the team, like the pig and the squirrel and the turtle and the different dogs. I liked the team. They're all kind of endearing and got quirks and stuff. But I don't think any of them necessarily pop. Like I said, I don't think many kids are going to necessarily want to go get the toys and play. It just seems and the animation's good, but not great. This movie just doesn't quite seem to kind of pull all the pieces together to kind of make this into a better film or kind of reach its potential. And then I think because some of the content stuff, some of the language or the words that are used or the sexuality, some of those things that are sprinkled in, I just don't think the movie is good enough as a movie to kind of wade through maybe some of those things or that. But again, it's up to you what you do with your kids. So I think this is as far as sort of an hour and 40 minutes of entertainment. This movie's fine. Anyone hoping for anything kind of more, for this to really kind of pop or engage children, I think they're going to have to look elsewhere. Definitely not one of the better animated movies of the year. And there is some of the content stuff that I think parents will need to be aware of, and kind of as they make their decisions about what to do, take their kids through this. And although there is definitely stuff in there, I didn't find it while I was watching to be super thrown in your face. Not in the same way that some more other recent kind of animated movies have been real controversial. It is sort of mostly on the fringes and stuff, and I don't think my kids would even pick up on that. But again, it is up to you with how you kind of walk through that. But hey, if you watch this movie, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. We'd love to talk about this with you, or if you have questions, things I didn't cover, or things you would, questions about some of the content, if you want me to explain a bit more, be happy to have those conversations with you in the comment section. But thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't done so, encourage you, subscribe to our channel, like this video, join with what we're doing here, become a Collider. We got a lot of cool stuff. Again, we're in our new studio, a lot of cool stuff coming up. We'd love to have you be a part of that. But stay safe, guys, and continue to collide with your world for Christ.